You can earn a living and still be broke. You can make a fortune and still feel empty. The question isn't just how much you make, but who you become in the process. Because success isn't defined by income alone. It's defined by the levels you grow through to earn it. Most people spend their entire lives chasing income, not understanding that money has levels, and each level requires a new version of you. You see, income doesn't just come from effort. It comes from understanding. Effort without understanding creates exhaustion, but effort guided by understanding creates elevation. There are 3 levels of income, and every person in this room, every person watching this video, is living in one of them right now. Some are trapped in level 1, wondering why nothing changes. Some have touched level 2 but keep falling back. And a rare few, the ones you admire, the ones who seem to attract opportunities, they've mastered level 3. But the truth is, you can't skip levels. You can't earn level 3 income with level 1 habits. You can't reach abundance with the thinking that barely keeps you afloat. So, today, I want to take you on a journey through these 3 levels to show you what they mean, what holds you back, and how to move up. Because once you understand this, your whole relationship with work, money, and success will never be the same again. Stay with me. Because if you've ever felt stuck, overworked, or underpaid, by the end of this talk you'll see exactly why, and more importantly, what to do about it. At the first level of income, life is about survival. You wake up every day with one purpose: to make enough to get by. The bills are waiting, the rent is due, the groceries don't buy themselves, and at the end of the month, you hope that what you earned stretches far enough to keep you afloat until the next paycheck. It's not that people at this level lack ambition, it's that they're trapped in a pattern built by necessity. They've been taught from childhood that the way to make money is to work for it directly, hour by hour, day by day. So they trade time, the most precious thing they own, for income that disappears as quickly as it comes in. The hours become the currency, and before long, a person finds themselves exhausted, not just physically, but emotionally. Because deep down, there's this quiet realization that they're stuck in a system that rewards consistency more than creativity and obedience more than growth. At this stage, income is linear. You put in an hour, you get paid for an hour. You stop working, and the income stops flowing. You're tied to your job like a lifeline. For some, that brings a sense of comfort. There's predictability in knowing what's coming on payday, but that same predictability is the very thing that limits expansion. The security is an illusion, because if one small piece of the system breaks, the company downsizes, the market shifts, health declines, everything collapses. People live under this quiet tension, knowing that one bad week could send everything spiraling. They work harder and harder, hoping the next raise or bonus will fix it, not realizing that working harder inside the same level doesn't lead to a new level. The truth about survival income is that it consumes everything. It takes your time, your energy, your creativity, and gives you just enough in return to keep you coming back. It's like being on a treadmill that never stops. You're moving, but not progressing. You're working, but not advancing. The paycheck becomes a pacifier for potential. It keeps you quiet, it keeps you functioning, but it never fulfills you. And many people convince themselves this is normal. They believe this is life, that struggle and limitation are just the price of living. They see others succeeding and think those people were lucky or born into opportunity. They forget that the greatest opportunities often come disguised as small choices made daily, the choice to learn, to observe, to break a pattern instead of repeating it. Most people at this level don't hate their work, they just feel disconnected from its purpose. They wake up, follow the same routine, perform the same tasks, and wonder why they still feel stuck. The problem isn't the job itself, it's the mindset that keeps them there. They see income as something they earn instead of something they create. They focus on effort instead of understanding. The world pays for value, not time. But at this level, people have not yet learned how to translate their value into something the market rewards beyond an hourly rate. It's not their fault. The system is built that way. Society trains us to be employees, not thinkers, to seek stability, not growth, to obey instructions, not build systems. So the first step in moving beyond survival income is awareness. You must see it for what it is. You must admit that trading all your time for money has limits. You must confront the belief that safety comes from routine, because the moment you see the trap, you can start building the key to escape it. That key is personal development. It's learning new skills that multiply your value. It's reading, listening, observing, experimenting, and asking, what can I do that solves problems bigger than my own? Survival income feeds on short-term thinking. It says, I need to make it through this week. But success begins when you start thinking, how can I create something that lasts beyond this week? At this level, discipline is often mistaken for progress. People tell themselves, I'm showing up every day, I'm working hard, I'm doing my best. And yes, that's noble. But discipline without direction is like rowing a boat without a compass. You move, but you don't know where you're going. The real discipline is in learning. Staying up after work to study a skill, listening to an audiobook on the commute, asking questions from those who are where you want to be. The difference between those who stay at level 1 and those who rise out of it isn't luck. It's curiosity. It's the decision to learn something new when everyone else is too tired or too distracted to care. Survival income also creates a dangerous illusion called just enough. Just enough to pay the bills, just enough to get by, just enough to keep quiet about the dissatisfaction that's been building inside. But the danger of living with just enough is that it kills your hunger. You lose the drive to grow because survival becomes comfortable. Comfort is the enemy of progress. When life is too easy to change, but too hard to enjoy, that's when most people stop evolving. They settle for mediocrity because it's less painful than chasing greatness. Another truth about level 1 is that it's not just about money, it's about mindset. People at this stage often see themselves as victims of circumstance. They say, I can't get ahead because of my job, or my boss won't promote me, or the economy is bad. But what they don't realize is that every complaint is a confession of control surrendered. The moment you blame something external, you give it power over you. You can't change what you don't own. So the first real shift out of this level happens when you stop blaming and start building. When you say, if it's to be, it's up to me, you can begin that process right where you are. You don't have to quit your job or take wild risks. You can start by shifting your focus from earning to learning. Ask yourself, what skill could I develop that would double my value? Maybe it's communication. Maybe it's leadership. Maybe it's understanding money itself. The point is to stop being paid only for what you do and start being paid for what you know. It's also important to understand that survival income keeps you mentally trapped because it ties your identity to your job. People say, I'm a carpenter, or I'm a teacher, or I'm a driver, and they wear that as their entire identity. But you are not your job. You are the person who does that job, and that person can evolve. You can learn business, you can build something on the side, you can create multiple streams. The world rewards initiative, not titles. The biggest enemy at this level is fear, the fear of losing what little security you have. Fear whispers, don't risk it, don't change, you could lose everything. But what most never realize is that they're already losing something every day time, freedom and potential. Every year spent only surviving is a year not spent building. The cost of staying the same is higher than the cost of trying and failing. And so, the first level of income becomes a test of awareness, courage, and choice. Will you keep trading your hours for survival, or will you start planting seeds for growth? Because once you start to see that income is a reflection of value, not effort, your whole perspective changes. The question is no longer, how much can I work? But how much can I grow? The second level of income begins the moment you realize that hard work alone will never create freedom. At this level, you stop measuring your worth by how many hours you put in and start asking a deeper question. How can I make my effort multiply? This is where the concept of leverage enters the picture. Leverage is the ability to do more with less, to use your mind and systems to create results beyond your personal capacity. It's the shift from working in something to working on something. Most people never reach this stage because they've been taught that success is earned through sweat alone. They cling to the idea that the more hours they work, the more valuable they become. But in truth, the marketplace doesn't reward effort. It rewards value, and value comes from leverage. Leverage income begins when you stop thinking like an employee and start thinking like an owner. It's when you start building systems, networks, or assets that continue to produce even when you're not physically present. You move from trading time for money to building something that works while you sleep. That could mean starting a business, developing a product, investing in property, or even creating content that continues to generate returns. The form doesn't matter as much as the mindset. The key is learning how to multiply yourself. You realize that there are limits to your personal energy, but no limits to what systems, people, and ideas can do when structured right. At this level, the tool changes. In the first level, your body was your tool. You used your hands, your back, your energy. In the second level, your tool is your mind. You begin to think differently, to see patterns, to notice inefficiencies. You start asking questions like, how can I automate this? How can I delegate this? How can I scale this? These questions separate those who stay stuck from those who rise. Because once you start asking how to multiply, you stop living in survival mode. You move from reaction to creation. You no longer chase opportunities. You start creating them. One of the biggest mental barriers to moving into leverage income is control. People who have always depended on their own effort often find it hard to trust others or systems. They think, if I want it done right, I have to do it myself. That kind of thinking keeps them trapped. To build leverage, you must let go of the illusion of control. You must learn to build teams, to delegate authority, to trust processes. This doesn't mean becoming careless. It means becoming strategic. It means realizing that leadership is about multiplying your impact through others. The greatest leaders don't just work hard, they build others who work hard. Another shift that happens in this stage is your relationship with time. At level 1, time is money. At level 2, time is leverage. You begin to see time as a resource to invest, not to spend. You start using your time to build things that last. You invest in learning new skills that make your work more scalable. You focus on tasks that move the needle, not just the ones that keep you busy. You also learn the difference between activity and productivity. Many people stay busy all day, but produce little of lasting value. At this level, you learn to prioritize the few actions that produce the greatest results. You begin to understand that one well-designed system can replace 1,000 hours of labor. Leverage income is also about understanding people. You realize that your success depends not only on what you can do, but on how well you can inspire and coordinate others. You begin to see people not as competition, but as partners, clients, collaborators, and assets in a shared mission. You learn to communicate vision, to persuade, to teach, and to empower. You stop trying to be the smartest person in the room and start building rooms filled with smart people. You learn that your strength lies not in knowing everything, but in knowing how to connect the right people and ideas together. The second level also teaches you how to see money differently. Instead of treating money as something to spend, you start viewing it as a seed to plant. Every dollar can be invested into something that grows. You realize that money itself is not power. What you do with it is. You start using money to create leverage. You buy tools, you invest in knowledge, you acquire assets that continue to generate value. You learn the principle of delayed gratification, sacrificing short-term comfort for long-term freedom. You understand that true wealth isn't in having a lot of money, it's in having money that works for you. At this level, creativity becomes your greatest ally. You begin to see opportunities where others see problems. You ask, what system can I build to solve this? Or what service can I create to make this easier for others? Every inconvenience becomes a possible business. Every skill becomes a potential product. You stop thinking like a worker and start thinking like a creator. The more creative you become, the more value you generate. And the more value you generate, the more income follows you. However, leverage income also comes with new challenges. It tests your patience. Building systems takes time. Training people takes effort. Developing a product requires resilience. Many people get frustrated in this phase because results don't appear immediately. They're used to getting paid instantly for every hour of work. So when they put in months of effort and see no immediate reward, they panic. But leverage requires faith. You're planting seeds that will grow later. The harvest doesn't come overnight, but when it does, it comes abundantly. Fear is another obstacle. Fear of failure of debt, fear of uncertainty. At level 1, you fear losing your job. At level 2, you fear your idea is not working. But this is the necessary fear of growth. The difference between those who rise and those who remain is that successful people use fear as fuel. They move forward despite it. They understand that mistakes are tuition fees for mastery. Every failure teaches you something that success never could. Leverage income also demands clarity of purpose, because when your income begins to multiply, so do your distractions. Opportunities will appear from everywhere. Some will look promising but lead nowhere. Without a clear vision, you'll chase too many directions and lose your focus. The key is to stay anchored in purpose. Know why you're building what you're building. Know who you're serving and what problem you're solving. Purpose keeps your leverage pure. It keeps your ambition from turning into greed. This stage of income also redefines freedom. Many people think freedom means doing nothing, but real freedom means choice. The ability to decide how, where, and with whom you spend your time. When your income comes from leverage, you gain that choice. You can work because you want to, not because you have to. You can focus on what you love instead of what you need. You can give more, live more, and create more because your income is no longer limited by your hours. But reaching this level is not just about learning business or investment. It's about personal transformation. You have to change your habits, your mindset, and even your circle. You can't rise to level 2 if you're surrounded by people who only think in level 1 terms. You must seek mentors who have already built systems, people who can challenge you to think bigger. You must be willing to unlearn the old rules of work and success. In the end, the shift from survival income to leverage income is a journey from dependence to independence, from effort to efficiency, from working hard to working smart. It's about learning that the real secret to wealth is not found in how much you do, but in how effectively you multiply what you do. The person who learns to build systems, lead people, and invest wisely enters a new dimension of success, where work becomes creation and income becomes growth. The third level of income is not measured in dollars, but in depth. It's the level where money becomes a reflection, not a motivation. You've already learned how to survive, you've learned how to leverage, and now you step into something far greater, legacy. This level is not about earning, it's about becoming. It's when your value extends beyond what you do and turns into what you represent. At this point, you start to understand that true wealth is not accumulated, it's contributed. You stop chasing success and begin building significance. You start thinking about what will remain when you're gone, about what will continue to grow when you're no longer in the room. That's the essence of legacy income. It's income born from impact. When people first hear the word legacy, they often think about inheritance or wealth passed down. But legacy is not what you leave for people. It's what you leave in them. It's the ideas, the inspiration, the example, the systems, the culture, and the principles you pass on. Legacy income flows from the influence you create, not the hours you work. It's what happens when the value you've built continues to benefit others, long after you've stopped participating. A great teacher still earns influence years after their lessons. A visionary entrepreneur still shapes industries through the systems they designed. A leader still guides people through the wisdom they shared. This is income that transcends currency. It's measured in lives touched, minds opened, and futures transformed. At this level, your thinking completely transforms. You stop asking, how can I make more? And start asking, how can I mean more? You understand that the world doesn't remember people for what they had, but for what they gave. The richest person in the cemetery is still dead, but the one who planted seeds of knowledge, kindness, and courage lives on in the people they influenced. That's real wealth, the kind that doesn't fade when markets crash or industries change. It's wealth woven into the hearts and minds of others. Reaching this level requires wisdom, patience, and perspective. You must go through the earlier stages to get here because survival teaches gratitude, leverage teaches growth, but legacy teaches purpose. At this point, money becomes a tool to amplify your mission, not a measure of your success. You start to see income as energy. It flows where purpose directs it. You use it to build schools, fund ideas, mentor people, or create platforms that empower others. You realize that making an impact is the highest return on investment. You also understand that giving is not subtraction, it's multiplication. The more you give, the more value you create, and the more value returns to you in ways that money alone could never provide. Legacy income requires a deep sense of responsibility. You recognize that your success has influence, and influence must be used wisely. People are watching, learning, and following. The example you set becomes a blueprint for others. You can inspire them to grow or teach them to settle, depending on how you live. The greatest leaders at this level don't talk about legacy. They live it daily. They understand that every decision, every interaction, every creation is shaping something beyond themselves. Their focus shifts from personal gain to generational growth. They ask, what am I building that will outlive me? What values am I leaving behind that others can build upon? The third level also redefines your relationship with work. You no longer work out of need. You work out of vision. You wake up not to make a living, but to make a difference. Every project becomes a message. Every product becomes a contribution. Every action becomes a reflection of what you believe. You start to experience a kind of fulfillment that money alone can't produce. The fulfillment that comes from purpose-driven productivity. When your work aligns with your principles, you experience harmony between who you are and what you do. At this stage, your measure of success shifts from accumulation to influence. You look at how many people you've helped, how many ideas you've sparked, how many opportunities you've created. You start thinking generationally, not seasonally. You're no longer content with quick wins, you're building foundations. This shift also affects how you treat people. You begin to value relationships over transactions, reputation over profit, and contribution over competition. You realize that legacy is a team effort. No one builds something that lasts alone. You start investing in people, mentoring them, believing in them before they believe in themselves. You start planting seeds in others, knowing you might never see all of them bloom. This level of income also demands humility, because when you've achieved much, it's easy to believe you're the source of it all. But legacy reminds you that you're just part of a larger story. Every mentor, every book, every lesson, every mistake contributed to your growth. So now it becomes your responsibility to pass that wisdom forward. Humility keeps you grounded in gratitude. It reminds you that legacy isn't about you. It's about what flows through you. You become a channel for growth, a bridge for others to cross, a spark for others to ignite. Another powerful aspect of this level is perspective. You stop comparing yourself to others because you realize that everyone's journey is different. You're no longer chasing numbers, you're chasing meaning. You measure your progress by the size of your heart, not the size of your bank account. You begin to appreciate time differently. Every day becomes an opportunity to contribute, to share, to build something worthwhile. You realize that while money can buy comfort, only purpose can bring peace. Legacy income also teaches you the importance of alignment. You can't inspire others if your life contradicts your message. Integrity becomes non-negotiable. You understand that credibility is the currency of legacy. People don't follow what you say, they follow what you do. Your consistency becomes your credibility. You realize that wealth without character collapses, but character creates wealth that never dies. At this point, every action, every decision, every investment becomes guided by principles rather than pressure. The third level also introduces you to a deeper form of fulfillment. The joy of giving, the satisfaction of seeing others grow, the pride of knowing your work still speaks when you're silent. You begin to see success not as something you own, but as something you share. You build things that help others rise, whether it's a business that empowers people, a foundation that educates, or even just a mindset that uplifts everyone you meet. You realize that your greatest return is not in what you receive, but in what you release into the world. And yet, this level doesn't come without challenges. It demands balance. When your mission grows, so do the responsibilities. People depend on you, and that can create weight. You must learn to protect your energy, to rest, to stay connected to your source of inspiration. You must keep learning, because legacy is not a destination. It's a lifelong process of expansion. You never truly arrive, you simply evolve. You move from making money to making meaning, from working for yourself to working for something larger than yourself. Eventually, you come to see that the true reward of reaching this level isn't freedom from work, but freedom through work. You find joy in giving, purpose in producing, and peace in knowing that your efforts matter. You discover that when you live by principle and build with intention, your influence becomes timeless. Long after you're gone, the systems you built, the people you helped, and the ideas you shared continue to generate value. That's the final transformation. When your income, your impact, and your identity all align in a way that keeps growing beyond your lifetime.